We are at session 103, and we have finally gotten to a point where we have an animation that is 1800 frames at this time. I make no apologies for the last, I don't know, what, 3 or 4 sessions where we were running into problems. We were trying to figure out what that glitch was. We were analyzing it. We were retrying previews, and ultimately we took the pause out, not fully understanding why that pause wasn't working. But it's okay, because in hindsight, that's really not how an airplane behaves. Okay, so that's okay. But listen, this is how you learn. Hopefully, this tutorial series on the Mandelbulb 3D, pursuing a rather complex animation in terms of movement, hopefully what this does is it helps you avoid the frustration of having to deal with these issues with the animation. Look, you know, it's relatively easy to work up a graphic, a Mandelbulb 3D graphic. Relatively easy to do the lighting, to do the coloring. Relatively easy to do a nice straight flight through an animation. Not easy to get a lengthy animation going. I mean, if you wanted to do an animation of, say, 5 minutes, I mean, why not? I mean, that's a lot of frames. Let's see here. 5 minutes. Okay, so 5 minutes times 60 seconds, that's 300. And if I want to do this at 60 frames per second, I got to do times 60. That's 18,000 frames, okay? So 18,000 frames. So that would, now if I divide that by 60, well, that's basically, okay, that's 300. And if I divide that, let's say I want how many subframes do I want? Yeah, so that would probably run you probably around 100 keyframes, something like that. A 5-minute animation, 18,000 with complex moving. Now, I mean, I don't have to do complex moving, but I personally believe that if you're going to do a Mandelbulb 3D environmental animation, there's a couple things that are my goals. First of all, I want it to be an interesting fly-through. I want it to be interesting. I want it to sort of be realistic, sorta. I don't like jumpiness or jarring, because that damages the story, and the story is whatever the story is to the viewer. You know, that's a cool environment. That's neat. Okay. I want the quality to be good. I want the quality to be good because I don't want people distracted by poor quality. And we talked at length about quality. And I like there to be a theme to my animations. Some sort of a theme. Some sort of a story. In this particular case, it's an environment. It's interesting. It's very diverse, and the structures and the graphics, the elements, the lighting. Okay, the story is look, you know, you're in some sort of a vast foreign world, and you're flying around their floating, their anti-gravity structures, whatever. So if you're going to do an animation, I believe, with the Mandelbulb 3D software, you might as well do it right. You might as well do it to some degree of interest. And I believe that the best way to get there is to go easy, make a half a dozen, or in this case 10 keyframes, preview it, check it out, make sure you got your speed movement is good. You're not diving into and clipping Mandelbulb objects unless you don't really care about that, or it's part of the presentation. It's okay. It's okay to clip, but you may not want to. And make it interesting and make it epic. I mean, why not? You have the tools to do it. Why not? I mean, we've shown a little frustrating getting here, but you have the tools to do that. I mean, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. And that's only 10 keyframes in. Now, part of the secret to your workflow is to keep your notes. My apologies. I found a little typo in here. I think I had overlooked keyframe number 5. So that was a little confusing, but I corrected that. The documentation here aligns perfectly with the keyframe structure that I have up here. Now, I believe that I am in a position now where I have a good environment to fly through. I have a decent speed at 30 frames per second now. My video in the video editor is going to be 60 frames per second. Now, which means that at some point, before I fully commit, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to double all of these subframes. That 300 is going to go to 600, 300, 600, and all these 100s, they're going to go to 200. I'm going to double the number of subframes I have, because in my video editor, my timeline is going to be 60 frames per second. So that doubling these subframe values at 60 frames per second will give me a speed through the environment similar to this one. And I want 60 frames per second in the video editor is going to give you a nice, smooth frame-to-frame movement. You don't want the jitters. You don't want the stuttering. You don't want low frame rates. Not anymore. Not today. Nowadays, we can do 60 frames per second easy. Very easy. We're no longer stuck with 30 frames per second and 24 frames per second because we're not in a cinema situation here. We are not trying to replicate old film. We're purely in a digital environment. This is obviously made up. We don't need to try to be old film school. And we don't need to settle for 30 frames per second. Not anymore. Go for 60. As a matter of fact, go for 4K. 4K 60. Why not? We can do it. We can do it. And so far, everything I've shown you cost you no money to get the software. The Mandelbulb3D software, downloadable, easy to install. I showed you OBS, free. At some point, we're gonna put all this into DaVinci Resolve, a very, very, very capable video editor, free. They have a paid version, but they have a free version that will do everything you need to do to render out a presentation with your Mandelbulb animation. All right. So obviously the PC is going to cost you something, but hopefully you've got one or two anyway. All right. So far we're really not into any money. You know, we're into time. We're into a learning curve. Sure. Listen, you can have a really, really good time with this Mandelbulb 3D software. You do not have to restrict yourself to a still, although that would be fun. Do some amazing stuff. I'm showing you how you could achieve a complex movement animation without the extreme frustration that we all went through. I'm showing you tricks, tips, techniques, workflows to save you all a lot of that frustration so that you and I can concentrate on being artists, using our tools, and accomplishing something that we'll be quite proud of. And so the whole idea behind being a fractal artist is to arrive at a point where you have a completed project that you can share with others, that you can publish. The whole idea of being a fractal artist, or any type of artist, is not so that you could sit there and be frustrated all the time. You need to be able to enjoy what you're doing, move forward, accomplish, learn, and reduce the amount of mistakes and redos and retakes so that you can actually arrive at a point where you have accomplished a project with a specific or a general, a vague goal. In this tutorial series so far, I believe that this is the point that I wanted to achieve, where we have come up to an animation that looks good, that is smooth, that is an interesting environment, interesting coloring, that has a lot of quality attributes to it. We're not done yet, but we are certainly at a point where we have proven that this particular animation project will be ultimately successful. So why don't we end this session? What is it? Session 103. Let's end session 103 right here, and when we get back to this, we're going to do some more animation. We're going to tweak some other things up here, and I think we're going to be at a point where we can actually move into finalizing this project. And what I'll do is I'll render everything out, full frame, and then I think we can get into. I'll actually show you the video editing environment and how we can bring these things in and make a nice presentation. Okay, so we got a little ways to go yet. We're still learning. But this is a really good progress, I believe, that we've made, and we'll continue to make some more progress. Okay. All right. Hey, I'll see you in the next session. Let's get some coffee. Rest, as a matter of fact, for me, it's the end of a work day. I'm going to just kind of park all this stuff and get back to it tomorrow, and we'll continue the fun. So I'll see you then.